And we're live. Welcome to Gorodoc's Pub, where we mix our metaphors with our drinks. So we were discussing the new Superman trailer, and did you want to say something about the Lex Luthor?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to remember the guy's name, the actor. I really liked him playing Tolkien, and I didn't think he was too bad in Mad Max Fury Road, but he just doesn't come off as Lex Luthor to me.
Well,
That'd be almost like him playing Kingpin, you know, it's just, yeah, not really.
I wonder if. Well, here's my projection. Okay, let me prognosticate on this. I don't think it does well. I don't think it. I think some core nerds will dig some aspects of it, but I don't think a large bunch of normies are going to like crypto. It's just going to seem like a kiddie movie, and
Well, to my understanding, when you say kiddie movie, to my understanding, I think that's James Gunn's intent.
Well, I don't
Because
think
he wants to make it feel like the Silver Age Superman, which really was the Super Friends Superman, and I'm seeing that there's some celebration in them not being a dark Superman, and I can dig that because Superman's really not supposed to be a dark character. He is the goody two shoes of the goody two shoes. But that said, I don't see why Henry Cavill couldn't have played the part. And I don't see what the other one brings to the role. They were talking about charisma and wait till you see him and all this, and everything I saw in the ad, nothing impressed me. Not one thing. And I was looking, hopefully find something to say, oh, that looks like it could be cool, or that looks like it could be cool. The coolest thing that I saw was it looked like he's going to fight Metallo.
Except for I didn't think that looked all that great.
I didn't say that was great. I said it was the coolest thing I saw.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not really selling it for me.
Well, that's a distinction. Well, did you read the John Byrne run?
No. Well, and I'm looking at it as a movie and only a movie. I did not think it looked all that good. I didn't think the
motherfucker did it again. That's gonna piss me off because it's not my camera. Because I just went through all kinds of stuff with it. So it's got to be StreamYard.
Huh? Well, anyway, I mean, when I look at the trailer, I mean, I'm not excited for the actors. I don't think the villain looked good, and I think they did exactly what I was worried about with Green Lantern. And I don't think that James Gunn is gonna make a film, he may like. Okay, so the tone of the film is supposed to be, positive, but I don't think, and you can still get Guardians of the Galaxy, and you can see, oh, it's colorful and bright, but there's always a underlying darkness with it, and there's a lot of really some dark humor that, to me, I don't see James Gunn, and this is conjecture, and I don't know him. It's not like he's my best friend or anything, but I don't see him really honoring.
This is McDowell.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Well, I asked you if you read the run because I didn't know if you knew who he was.
Probably should ask. You know who he is? Yeah, I know he is.
Well,
I just, he looked like a turd. Looked like TV stuff. Looked like it should have been on a CW. And I guess didn't.
I didn't see it that way, but okay. No, go ahead and go on with what you were saying because this is a sidetrack.
Well, I just think, I think you might have some people who are going to nerd boy over stuff like crypto, but you got, I know these characters, and not a single one of them sounds interesting to me. I've always thought crypto was one of the stupidest things ever. I don't see James Gunn settling this one, and I don't see him.
I'm not a fan of crypto either, like making an appearance, because those are way after the fact. It's like I'm dubious even on Supergirl, right? Because she came after the fact as well.
Yeah.
So like if you're really a purist with Superman, you really can't be all like, oh, I'm all good with. Here's this stupid ass shit. Like I've seen debates in the last week or two over the size and shape of the S on Superman's chest. How big it should be on his chest. How small it should be. Whether the S should look like that or not. The S doesn't look like an S at all to me. Like if you look at it looks like it's like a no Superman zone.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like an S to me. There's no tail. There's no whip around. And then they're talking about the S being back on the back of this cape, but it's not an S. So like, make up your mind. You want an S or not?
Yeah, I just
Henry Cavill's S wasn't a huge S. The huge S was yeah, I'm not on this side, but yeah, Henry Cavill's S wasn't a huge S. The big S was on the TV show. I can't remember his name. Not the kid, the ex-football player. Oh, you're buffering because I can't see you at all. Let's see.
Okay, now I'm back, finally.
Dean Cain. Dean Cain's Superman S was the big Superman S. Like, ridiculously big. All the rest of them are, well, and then Brandon Roos is really small. But for the most part, if you look at Henry Cavill's or Christopher Reeves, they are basically what I grew up as what Superman's S was. So it was John Byrne and Neil Adams. Those are those are the Superman S sizes that they're representing. I just think there's such silliness in the fanboy arguments that are going around.
Well, I just don't.
Like I'm talking about the Superman S being on his cape. That's not the original Superman.
I'm telling you, I still think. Okay, so you have a group that you can't please. So
Like
because
everybody.
no matter what, you're going to piss off somebody with something. Then also, the way Gunn went after this with, and I think he's trying to do the Guardians of the Galaxy treatment. That's why he needed crypto, but I really don't think that's going to sell well. I think people are going to look at that and just some of the uber nerds are still going to like it because it's just like the dog out of the comic books. But
Well,
there are going to be a lot of people who are going to say, "Yeah, that's the kind of shit I don't like about the comic books."
On the DC Facebook page, it was about 1/3 to 2/3 ratio didn't like it.
That's not good numbers.
I'm just telling you. Well, yeah, there's
I'm-
2/3 of them that like it. That's better than half,
Right.
and you know what we're dealing with. Look at Star Wars. Didn't even matter, right?
I'm
Didn't even matter.
I do not predict this movie goes over well. That's my guess. I think they're going to try to hype the hell out of it. But, and maybe it will. I don't know. I could be wrong, and I won't begrudge him if he does well. But,
No, but I don't think I'm going to go see it.
yeah.
Like,
That's what I mean. I'm just like,
for me, like that's just the way he's treating it, the way they're going about it. I can wait. Like, I'll wait till it's free.
yeah.
I got no need to pay to see that shit.
Yeah. There was something I saw earlier that I thought was kind of neat. It said, it was a comparison, and it was Nerd Erotic was talking about it, but he wasn't saying he said it. Somebody explained it to him that Batman beats up the bad guys, but Superman saves people. Like
Right.
there's a tonal difference there.
Yeah,
And,
well, like I said, Superman's the goody two shoes. He's the one he's the Luke Skywalker to Darth Vader, right? He's trying to save you no matter how bad you are. Batman, like, he only was like that during the Silver Age. Other than that, he was either... Actually, Batman at one point carried a gun. But, yeah, Superman, that's the whole Justice League, right? Superman calming effect on everybody.
I just think, I think it looks too campy, and it's just a trailer, and I don't wish ill of it. I just don't think it's going to do well. That's my prediction.
I don't wish ill, but I'm not going to go see it. Like,
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
there's just so let me put it the right way, I guess. Like, I have nothing against it doing well either. I'm just not going to be the one who makes it do well. You know what I mean? Like,
You're
and
not going to support it necessarily.
right.
You're not against it.
Right. It's not when I say when I put it that way. It's like I'm not gonna not support it. I'm not gonna be like, don't go and see that. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just that I very rarely make a trip to the movies to see a movie anyway these days. So it really, really has to be something of a draw for me. And besides the fact that they did Henry Cavill dirty, that's actually that's a part of me kind of hates that they let Henry Cavill announce he was coming back as Superman before they fucking threw him to the wayside.
Yep.
So that was disreputable, and it served no purpose other than to piss the fans off and to kind of, be a jab at Henry Cavill. Like, Henry Cavill didn't choose the script; he was the actor. So, like, if you didn't like what Snyder did, that's not Henry Cavill's fault. Henry Cavill can only do what he was paid to do.
All right.
Directors they're not going to just say, "Hey, do whatever you want." Hey, well, I guess some of them do, but that's not what you probably would expect or prepare for. You'd be prepared for the opposite, right? You'd be prepared to have them tell you what their vision is because they're the fucking director. So, I think the worst part of it for me was them letting him make that announcement just to snatch it away.
Yeah.
That's the bullshit of it. That's why I am not going to support it. Like, I wouldn't go and see it anyway in the theater, but I might have, rented it from home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that kind of makes me not want to, because that's a rotten thing to do to somebody who actually represented that character a lot and beyond getting paid to do it. And Henry Cavill, as we all know, is kind of a nerd anyway, so he stays true to the source material if he can. So, like, why wouldn't you want somebody that actually not only knows the source material but doesn't have any problem staying true to it?
Oh, if you don't want to stay true to it yourself.
Well, yeah, and that's
you don't want to have to butt heads.
Or you want to let people know who's in control. Like, I saw they had Green Lantern and I saw Hawkman, and I had heard some arguments about Henry Cavill only played Superman in like one movie that was a Superman movie anyway, and the rest of it was, Justice League and all that. And I'm like, so far as I can tell from that ad, it's still fucking Justice League. I didn't see Wonder Woman, but that's not enough to say that it's not just another fucking Justice League. The sucky thing is that there was a high expectation that they were going to do Superman versus Darkseid. That was the next planned movie, and that would have been really cool for the fans because that's kind of like Iran, where there's a fan base that wants to see that, Yeah. So instead, they're going to. It feels like they're just doing another fucking origin story, and we've seen all the origin stories we need to see.
They said that wasn't going to be an origin story. They said it was he already exists and all that stuff. So I just
Did you see the people coming out and looking up at him in awe like they hadn't ever seen a guy fly?
I'm just telling you what James Gunn said.
Yeah. I also heard an interview with him that was pretty rude towards the fans, so I don't know. We'll see.
Well, that's just like
Well, I'll see much later than you'll see probably.
oh,
But,
I
yeah.
don't know. The
I guess the chances of you going to see it or renting it are way ahead, way more than I am.
I just I had a feeling when they announced Nathan Fillion for Guy Gardner. I thought they were going to disrespect Guy Gardner, or at least Green Lantern. And
I kind of like, yeah, Guy Gardner's a redhead, and it sounds stupid, but like Tony Curran could play him. You know what I mean?
well, I
Like
just
there are natural redheads that are built that that could maybe fit that role. Nathan Fillion to do it, he's not going to be as serious as Guy Gardner was.
yeah, and that's another thing. I just think that yeah, it's just going to be a comedic thing, and they're going to disrespect Green Lantern, and I've always liked the concept of Green Lantern. I just find it interesting. Even the Green Lantern movie, which was a basic turd, but it
Yeah.
still had some good element. Like I was like, well, let's just put it this way. I don't mind the fact that I saw that in the theater, and I've yet to see the Marvels at all. And I can walk downstairs in my underwear and watch it on my big giant TV, and I still don't care.
The Marvel, you mean?
Yeah. So I like the Green Lantern. I like the Green Lantern Corps. There were some of the training stuff they did was cool. Like, it wasn't the best movie. The parallax was, oh look, it's a yellow cloud. Oh, it's just dumb. But most of it was, I was like, it's pretty fun. So it could have been better, but I didn't think it was just god awful. It was better than oh god, Harley Quinn and what was that damn? It was a Harley Quinn movie, but the Emancipation of one Harley, whatever that stupid thing was. God, it was terrible. The Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. Is that what it was? Birds of Prey and the Emancipation of Harley Quinn, whatever the stupid name was. I could, even watching that at home for free, I couldn't stomach it. I was like, oh. So, I thought Green Lantern was better than that one. Green Lantern was better than Wonder Woman 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't watch any of the Wonder Women.
Well, the first one wasn't terrible. I mean, it wasn't the greatest, but again, it wasn't terrible. I'd probably say it was better than the original Hulk.
Better than the original Hulk?
Yeah, before the...
Like David Bixby and...
No, the... What's the guy's name?
Eric Bana?
Yeah!
So you're talking about Ang Lee's Hulk?
Yeah, that thing was oh! There were tiny parts of that were good, but for the most part... Whew, that was bad.
So left you some room to shine here. Well, I like the idea of showing him at different sizes and showing the tunnels going thinner and then getting thicker. But it leaves you room to put words in conversations between him and his AI or whatever. Same thing here and here. Room to put your input in about the crawl or the dangers of the crawl or whatever you see fit or need to put in it.
Okay.
They just released, I don't know how long ago, new to me, Robert Jordan's first novel.
Okay.
So apparently when he got back from Vietnam, he wrote a novel because he was injured. Because I guess he read like a few books a day, which means like he's got to have an incredible, or had to have an incredible reading capacity. I can't even imagine reading one book a day. I'm like, I've read smaller books in a day, like Cycle the Werewolf and Eaters of the Dead, but they're not big books. So I can't imagine reading a whole bunch of science fiction fantasy books in a day. But he got pissed and threw one across the room and was like, I can do better than that. So he wrote one, and he actually sold it twice. But it never saw print. Like, he sold it to one imprint to Daw.
Yeah.
And they had the rights to it, but then they ended up giving it back to him. Because they didn't have a big fantasy department at the time. This was like 79, 78, something like that.
Okay.
And then he met his wife, Harriet, who was starting like a romance imprint from, I want to say Berkeley, that ended up becoming Tor later on.
Okay.
And Tom Dougherty bought it, and then didn't print it either. And like I don't think he just it's not that he didn't want to print it or whatever, but he's another man that reads and publishes a lot of books, right? So he Just purchased the rights to write Conan pastiches. And then he was looking for an author to write a Conan pastiche, and Harriet had, I guess they had met and married by this time, and Harriet was like, asked him to write a Conan pastiche because she had remembered this book, and he's like, no, which is ironic because that's ended up being what he was famous for before the Wheel of Time. Is he was writing Conan pastiches, and Conan the Destroyer is based on his novel. And he was the technical advisor for it. But the irony is, because he didn't want to do it at all. Getting this leg right is harder than the other one. I wanted a down shot so that we were looking at him from an eagle eye perspective, because we didn't really have one. We had a mouse eye view, but not an eagle eye. And I thought, yeah, I can tell the story. Good thing is, I don't need a whole lot of crazy perspective to tell this part. So, if we do, this is what, this will be the fourth panel. So four panels with different perspectives of him going through the crawl. Then it implies that it was a long crawl, right?
Okay.
Without actually having to do a long crawl. Do you agree?
Yeah.
All right, well, because you're the writer, so do you think you can fit all the information that you want to fit in about the crawl in this space?
Yeah.
All right. Because, I mean, this is a chance for you to play around within that boundary as well. I love the idea, like, we didn't really get into it, of like having almost like an alarm system on his suit, like a Spidey sense thing, where his growl goes off.
Is that literal? As in a literal sound goes off?
Yeah, kind of as the dog goes off. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It would be pretty cool to have a literal, like a growl, not a bark though, but a growl. Like maybe a bark if there's a lot of trouble coming. You know what I mean? But
Um,
the growl could even just be internal, but it would be cool. We could use it for effect later on. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a dumbass.
oh, the internal thing doesn't worry me. It was an external noise because if he's outside of a location, he's going to be surrounded by threats, and
Well, not necessarily direct threats.
I don't. It again, if I don't know, like there are things large enough where in fact, we're getting close to something large enough. You aren't going to want to announce your presence. But there are some things in this you generally tend to prefer to just let them go. And I don't know if a noise would be a helpful thing. Now, an internal warning, that's fine, because then that's for him. And
Yeah, I would say that it would be something he could set either way. Like he could set something if he wants to have a sound that scares somebody.
well, that's
But yeah, like internal's fine.
well, I'm saying, like if he's trying to intimidate someone or whatever, and he's controlling it, that's perfectly fine. But when he said like kind of like a Spidey sense, and I was like, well, Spider-Man doesn't control it. That's a reactive thing, and if you're reacting to the
Right, but he's not Spider-Man, and he doesn't have Spider-Man powers. A lot of this is the technology of the time, right?
right, that's
So
why
I mean, yeah, I mean, we could get specific on it later on, but I really think the early warning system being a growl or something, or he can have a defensive, that could add intimidation. So yeah, like it just ideas to play around with actually a mastiff,
yeah, as long as the noise is as long as it's something he controls, not something he's just stuck with. Because, again, there could be a definite good use for everything you're saying, but I'd want to be able to turn it on and off, or use it only when I want to use it, not when. I guess that's my own bias too. I don't like other things. I don't like giving up control of the machine. So, yeah, I mean, When you get done with this page, if you don't have a count of the pages that are done, I'd like one.
This is the 7th.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought, but I wanted to make sure.
Well, I was pretty sure, and you were thinking it was 8 last stream, but I title the streams by the page we're on. So this is 7. Just so there's no question. Did you read the Wheel of Time books?
Not all of them. And I don't remember which one I stopped on. I mean, I read a lot of them. But, well, if I remember correctly, Randall Thor, or whatever his name is, had found or gotten some sword that was supposed to make him all badass.
Kalandor.
And it worked like once, and then, oh, but wait, there's some other little twist. And I was like, you are no closer to getting to the point of this than you were in book 1. In fact, there are things in the first book that are so old, you don't even write about them anymore. They're just forgotten. And I was like, this guy has it's not going to end. And then he died, and I was like, well, called that one. Brandon Sanderson finished it,
but he also had notes and he had work towards it.
Well,
he had intended to finish it in 1 book. Brandon did it in 3.
Well, to me, it was just repetitive. I mean, at first it was cool, and then it was like, yeah, this is... It was like a TV show that had run its course, and you're just, sure. And I got tired of it.
Well, while I do agree there were repetitive scenes, and more importantly for me, there were scenes that I didn't care about, didn't think that they were important parts of the story. I think of it as chocolate cake with chocolate filling and chocolate frosting. Sometimes there's just too much chocolate.
Okay.
Well, like there's so much to love about those books. But the things that slow it down, bog it down, become repetitive and redundant are things like, I think in book 9 or 8, one of those two. Uh, one of the characters is pregnant, and somebody asked her like 4 different times when they show her, when he describes what's going on with her. It's how her pillows are fluffed, and how many people ask her if she's had her dose of milk, and it's like so we don't really need the illustration of everybody fussing over her repeatedly. 1 or 2 times is sufficient for us to get the idea that she's being fussed over to the point of annoying the shit out of her, right? I know a lot of people that were bothered by threads that he started that he never really finished, but he said at the beginning that there were going to be threads that are never finished because that's how life is. Some things are incidental and important to the story for only parts. So I could understand that, and I guess knowing that, it made it a little bit easier for me in some of those parts. But on the other hand, it was pretty annoying to reread a lot of the same type of stuff. Like, there was a scene I remember that took a page and a half, where it took a page and a half for Nynaeve to cross the street. And it took a page and a half because it was talking about the hem of her dress was muddy and she could use magic to remove that mud, but really, what is that serving in story wise? I mean,
again,
are you trying to tell us that she restrained herself from using the magic?
That's the kind of stuff that made me feel like he was just padding it out, and
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I agree. So there was quite a bit of that. Go ahead. I mean, and
the fact that he had notes, it's like, yeah, well, I have notes too. It doesn't mean I'm
no. He had
a
million. He had over 1 million.
Great, but again.
For his story, so it was a rich story, and that's what I was saying when I say chocolate cake with chocolate icing and chocolate filling and all that. It's the idea that there's that much detail, that much immersion, but sometimes we don't need that much immersion. Sometimes that hurts my teeth. You know what I mean?
Well, and
that's
you can tell, like, how many times is this person going to pull her braid? How many times is she going to stamp her foot? How many times is she going to, put her fists on her hips?
Well, Nynaeve, that's her thing. You can instantly identify her by that.
Great, it's repetitive and old.
Yeah, well, you could say that about any character that has a quirk or a thing.
Okay.
But
let's just say I won't do it.
You won't do what?
I won't sit there and have the person do it in the same language and the same. I would not consciously do that. If I did that, I'd want it pointed out in my fiction so I can fix it. And I get the idea that you got to have an identifying mark or identifying behavior or way of talking. I get it. But, man, just pulling a braid, that's okay.
That wasn't only what she did, but that was distinctly her. None of the other characters were pulling their braids. It was just Nynaeve. Like, other characters had other quirks. And another thing about that is that when he started doing that, nobody was really doing that. That's one of the ways he kind of changed it. So it's like when you read uh, the Iliad, for example. How many times is Achilles described as a lion?
I don't know.
Well, it's quite a bit, and there is a
And
point.
again,
There's no wait. There's a point to this.
Okay.
In the Iliad in particular, it wasn't written like somebody wrote Homer.
Yes,
telling
I know.
it down. But okay, so I'm not trying to condescend to you. I'm trying to explain to a possibly wider audience
Okay.
that the reason that Achilles is described as the lion, lion-maned, lion-hearted, all these different lion terms are their verbal cues for the next part. So, if you have an epic that has literally 120 different points of view, then there's an instant identifier to come back to. So I can see why he did that. And it is a memorable part because you still remember it long after the series is done. And I do too, but the things that annoyed me were the repetitiveness about asking about whether Egwene drank milk, or not Egwene. What's the princess's name?
I don't remember anymore.
But yeah, I mean, and like, if you notice, I think either every kingdom or almost every kingdom, but I'm pretty sure every kingdom was run by a queen. I mean, there was variation in customs because he had a very rich world like that, but there were some things that you could predict about it because it seemed like his whole world needed to be run by women. But I didn't bring it up to bash or praise the Wheel of Time. I brought it up to see what your overall thoughts were, because this first book, it's kind of a precursor to the Wheel of Time. Some of the things that he developed later on in the Wheel of Time are really kind of raw in this book. And the reason I asked mainly was just to see if you were interested in reading it, because it's not, it's not a 100-page prologue, you know what I mean? It's a 300-page book. So I just was going to mention that there was a lot of precursors to the Wheel of Time in it, and it was a little bit more of a kind of barbarian type story. I think it interesting that originally even starting the Wheel of Time, he was trying to tell Ham's story. Originally, it started to be about a guy that was coming home from a war, because he was coming home from a war. He was a Vietnam vet. Yeah, I'm not necessarily trying to defend or attack the virtues or not of his writing. Just wondered how your general impressions of it. Like I said, to me when I first started, it was a lot more like it felt like Stephen King meets Tolkien, and then after a while he started getting really verbose and started having like 120, 150 page prologues. Even a 50-page prologue was really long for me at the time. So I was pretty young, and I was, 50 pages, that's how long in the 80s. I gave a book to make sure, I gave a book to sell me on the story, like sell me on it's going somewhere or it's interesting. Because I used to read a lot of horror, and if it didn't hook me within 50 pages. So odd now. Now it doesn't hook me in 20 pages. I'm probably moving on. But in the 80s, it was 50. But 150-page prologue. I remember the first time I looked at his 150-page prologue, and I was like, "Are you for real?"
Yeah, it's just.
And it didn't even have any of the characters that were in the story, because it had like some of the sailor characters and characters that weren't in the previous novel. And maybe he was like updating us on what was going on with those characters, but here I wanted to read about Matt and Perrin and Rand. I think Perrin was my favorite the whole time, but
I don't know, to me, it felt like he, at best, because I still question it, but, yeah, I felt like he decided he was going to have a long series, and by God, he was going to have a long series. And, when you start spotting what's going to happen with the plot, it's just like, oh golly, it's going to have another complication, because that way we're still nowhere closer to the end of this as when we started. And that lack of progress, to me, I gave it a couple more books, and I was like, yep, that's it. And then, I had gotten to the end of however many were published at the time, and it would have been, I remember some old Aes Sedai woman or something, I think, or however you pronounce it.
Aes Sedai, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. And she conveniently was going to be the one that basically understands. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I just thought, this is getting contrived. It is no longer fun. And gave up on it. And which is sad, because I started off, I loved it. And recommended it to people, and my friends and I were all reading it and stuff, and then it got to be a chore. It's like, oh, not for me. So, moved on to other pastures.
Yeah, I slowed down, I think, about book 9, and that was, I started reading other stuff. I'm not one to pick up a series and read it from front to back and then move on. I like to, if it's a series I like to savor it. So I'll read one book, and then I'll read a book and something else, and then come back to the next one. But I was pretty much addicted to them for a while, and then they just started getting longer and longer. I think really what happened actually is one of those kind of George Martin things. That's why I can't stand George Martin doing that shit. Is that Robert Jordan wrote that prequel instead of finishing the series. He wrote New Spring instead of finishing. And I kind of felt betrayed at that point. I really liked a lot of what Robert Jordan was writing. I mean, some of it I had to, like I said, some of it was just too thick for me, and felt like it wasn't really necessary. But
I also felt like I had a bunch of,
for the most part,
like, there were those nomad people.
The Aes Sedai.
No. Nomad people, like, live in tents and stuff, not in the tower. And
oh, wait a minute, the AL. That's what I was thinking when I said Aes Sedai.
Okay.
Yeah, Aes Sedai is the women mages, right?
Yeah. And it's like, oh golly, and then of course all their stuff. despite the fact that they're a relatively small group and not overly powerful. Um,
Except for that's where Rand came from.
yeah, but this is about just they start showing how that culture is just so much better than the other one, and it's like I don't know. It's just this fetishizing of the other that uh, I'm not really into. Like I don't mind saying that there are cool things about all cultures, um, but when it's just like a comparison, it's just like, oh yeah, you silly people do this, and you silly people do this, and kind of got tired of that too. Uh, Gosh, that's not just him, and that's just the general trend. But there were
I don't
just
know.
too
It
many
kind of sounds
things.
like what you were. Kind of sounds like what you were just saying was more of like what the characters are like, or what that particular society is like. That doesn't mean that that's the opinion or the prevailing opinion, but that's the opinion of those people.
Yeah,
That's
I
like
still
you know nothing, Jon Snow, right?
what?
That's like you know nothing, Jon Snow, right?
Okay,
Well, because they're from beyond the wall, they know stuff that Jon Snow didn't know. So what what they what they value, and he doesn't know at all. They just think he's stupid because he doesn't know it.
uh huh.
That's that sensibility thing. Every culture has a different sensibility. I didn't read anything that made me feel like he was saying one race was better than the other. I guess like you feel that way, but I didn't read anything that made me feel that way. That
Okay.
maybe I just wasn't a discerning reader or whatever, but that's not what I got out of them. Hmm. I don't know if I've read a series where I've loved every book in the series or every aspect of the series anyway. And I think the Wheel of Time is fucking huge. So I think that's what it was meant to be, is bigger than one story. I don't know if that's the best way that he could go about making it that way, but I think that's kind of what the intent was, is to say that it's bigger than just this one story. I kind of feel like that first book that I'm kind of um, checking out is almost like before the breaking. Are you reading anything good lately?
No. I have to read this wonderful book for next semester. I can't wait. I can't wait to read it. It's going to be the greatest book ever. I ever mentioned the fact that I hated reading class in middle school? Hated it. Despised reading class in high school or in middle school. And the reason I despised it, I mean, part of it's because people are choosing things for you, and you're not allowed to choose yourself. Because I read plenty, but hated uh, 99% of all stories they ever chose for a reading class. And I swear, by the time you go through a textbook, adoption and all that stuff, they pick some of the blandest stuff ever. And they always want to deal with topics. I mean, even when they try to throw guys a bone, it's just so obviously not really geared towards a young male mind, and it bothers the hell out of me. And I'm supposed to read this book about girl in the red scarf or something, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure all these 12 and 13-year-old boys are just gonna clamor all over themselves for this thing. I can't wait. But then again, I also hate The Outsiders, and you think it's like great, so maybe I just have something against certain types of literature. Ugh.
I feel like that was a dig.
No, you like The Outsiders, I don't. So therefore,
Yes, I know,
I'm
but
saying,
like the way you phrased it, it feels like it was a dig.
no, that is completely on me. I don't think, I don't know, man. It's one of the reasons why I have a hard time with short fiction, which is funny because that's what I, sold and written. But I have a hard time figuring out something small enough for short fiction that I find interesting. And then I find it even less interesting when other people have written it normally. Especially when you're reading stuff about, I don't know, oh God, like, trying to think of something that we've read this year that I...
So you can't give them like Bradbury or anything like that?
Oh God, he's not in our curriculum now.
But you can't put it in there?
Not really, not right now I can't. And
that's what did it for me. It's Ray
yeah,
Bradbury.
he'd be good actually, especially at this age level. But no. We girl in the red scarf. It's like, okay. And what's funny is we have two 7th grade teachers. We're both guys. I really don't see this being a novel either one of us would have picked up. So I'm sitting here thinking, well, okay, then why the hell are we teaching it if neither one of us would actually like it?
Who decides?
I don't know at this building. So I also know this building disregards some of the stuff that they're supposed to, like, we have certain books, or they had certain books in the high school, and found out they were teaching some of them at the middle school. And it's like, whoa, what the, no? And the middle school teacher was like, well, that's what we had. And so I'm very aware of that issue, and so I don't want to do that. But I also know kind of what's at the high school. So I know what's like what could be available. But I also I question teaching whole novels. I don't find it useful.
No, ow. Go.
Hold on a second.
Go.
Apparently, my wife was evicting the dog and cat. So
That's kind of what it sounded like to me.
oh, it's just anyway. Ah,
Are you looking forward to Christmas?
I'm looking forward to break. I don't. I don't know. My family doesn't really seem to want to do anything, and I don't know. It's kind of getting lost here, and I don't know how to fix that. So, and part of it, like my mom's, well, she's getting up there. She's getting close to 80, and she doesn't want to like cook Christmas dinner, which I understand. But it seems like she also doesn't want to drive anywhere. So you kind of have to, since she might drive to my brother's house because he lives in the same city, relatively close. But they don't seem interested in having Christmas, like a meal or anything. And yeah, so I don't know. It's, especially ever since COVID, it's just kind of not been as cool.
Christmas is always special for me, whether or not it's special to anybody else. I don't care. Like, I mean, my kids don't. I don't think my kids are. Well, first of all, they're not really kids anymore. Like, Eli's the closest, and he's really an adult by age-wise.
Yeah.
Although he, still believes in the big red guy.
I got in trouble about that once. I have a cousin who he has Down syndrome, and I think Whit was born. Okay, so my son is alive at this point, and Sean's younger than me, but not that much younger, and so I think I said something how we're not telling our son about Santa Claus, and man, my aunt got pissed, and I'm like, "What are you talking?" Like, she's like, "Some people believe." I was like, "Oh, sorry, did not mean to do that."
Well, it really depends on. It depends on whether you want to perpetuate a myth, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we told the kids, like, that it's a representation and all that stuff. It's not like we pretend like it doesn't exist, or that.
Well, there was a real one, but that,
right.
I mean, he didn't live forever.
Right.
Like, I mean, I think there was a real one in multiple cultures, but none of them was really going to live forever.
Right.
It's the ideal that lives forever, and like I'm not going to destroy it for Eli, but it's like how long. I think a lot of parents are like, they love the magic of Christmas. You know what I mean? They love the idea of the magic of Christmas.
Yeah.
And for me, that's not actually what Christmas is about. No. So, like, it's not about the guy in the big red suit for me. It's not about necessarily gifts. It's that time of year. It's like, it's really Dickensian.
Yeah.
For me. It's a time when you can share and you tend to be nicer. Like, I know that there are assholes out there that are all about commercialism and they're not nice, but like this time of year, I feel like you take a greater pride in giving and helping, and that's important for me. I like that. That's what this channel was started on, and I like the idea of being able to do something or help somebody that had, either no other means of help or that just couldn't depend on somebody or whatever. Like I've had a rough one in a lot of ways, but there are people that have had way rougher lives than I did. So like I just love to be able to bring some cheer and bring some happiness, and that's what the season's about for me. Like it's great for the kids to be about something else, like
Right.
the anticipation of gifts or whatever, as long as that there's an understanding that these gifts that we're seeing or that's being represented are representations of gifts that were given to Christ. So I mean, that's maybe more important for me for my kids to know than think that Santa's, coming every year. I got to be careful because I don't know when he's listening. He's got his
Right.
earphones on, but
You never know.
his mom would kill me.
Yep, I understand that. But I have a magical propensity of putting my foot in my mouth, so
Oh, I have that as well. I have a propensity for doing that. Trying to make a joke, actually. I usually make bad jokes or jokes at the wrong time. Like, I was in New Hampshire doing a guest spot, tattoo shop, in the town Kristen McCullough was from.
okay.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
No, I don't.
The teacher that was on the shuttle.
Oh, okay.
And this guy had a space on his chin that was vertical, so it didn't have much space, And he's like, I'm looking for something to put in here, and I didn't even realize where we were, and any of that. And I'm like, well, you can do this big burning stream, and then a blue eye right here, and a blue eye right there. And like, he didn't get what I was saying, so then I told him the joke, and then the whole fucking entire shop stops talking. He looks at me, and the man just turns around and he's like, "You dumbass! Did you see this statue when we came into town?" And I'm like, "No, statue of what?" The hard way, man. The hard way.
Oh,
Here's a
goodness.
comment. Zaga, best viewers on.
I figured that was a
Steamboat.
bot and ignored it.
There it is, but I just saw the comment because I was looking at the page, not the.
Yeah. No, I had seen it and I was like, I don't think that's real. Ah.
Yeah, so I want to get him out of this just long dark tunnel. And I really like this hunched over pose. I like people to confuse him for the Max a little bit more.
Oh.
Well, I'm hoping that when the story's there,
Doesn't seem very Max-like.
right? Because there's a discernible story there. I mean, the Max was great, except for what was it about?
Yeah.
And like, I can't tell you anything about the Max except for what he looked like, and that he had a crush on a social worker.
So I think I might have my first complaint about Skeleton Crew. I watched the fourth episode last night, and it was fine, other than still got some very strong MCU vibes. But as in,
Other than
well, it's just okay. They go to this world, and there are at least two major factions fighting. So the kids meet someone roughly their age. Would you like to guess any of the characteristics of this character they meet?
No.
Well, doesn't have a penis. And of course, she does a whole bunch of flips, and she's just an amazingly brave person. She's just a strong female character because all of the female characters have to be strong, and it's just it's such a crutch, and it's such, especially in a war-torn world. Oh yeah, okay. And you can say a little bit about how she can shoot. Maybe she's fast, but I'm still saying in a war-torn world, you're probably going to want more male leaders than female. But hey, whatever. And yeah, they still kind of have the guys are the human people
or comedy relief.
Yeah, it's a little bit better than that. Don't get me wrong. Because I mean, overall, I like the characters, but so I mean, they do have that issue though of the I'll say it's mild misandry, but it's an 8-episode season, and we're 4 episodes in. And I feel like if your show is just going to be about finding home, because that's what
it's Farscape now?
What?
It's Farscape now?
Sorta. But it's like, well, okay, but let's go back to Farscape. Farscape had how many episodes, and they went to how many places?
A lot, and I have no idea. So
right, but it's like, okay, so here you have this vessel to tell a Star Wars story where you're going all over the place. You're seeing all kinds of new things, and they kneecapped it at 8 episodes, and I'm like, this was good enough. Like, this was you could have taken a basic trope and run with it and made, I think, lots of people happy with this series. And still, they only went with 8 episodes. And that might be because of how expensive it is. I don't know how expensive these episodes are. I know that The Acolyte was god-awful expensive for how terrible it looked. And this one looks pretty decent. So I don't know how expensive it is. I would kind of expect, well, I don't know, CGI. I don't know. But it's just, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Disney can sink the money in for a show that would run that long, but if Sci-Fi Channel was doing it, granted the quality of the Sci-Fi Channel stuff was probably not as good, and they didn't have Jude Law.
I thought it was pretty fucking fun.
Well, yeah, it was fun. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's just, but it's like
I wasn't
comparing.
paying attention to how much they spent on the set. It was viable enough for me. I'm just saying,
Well, I mean,
they don't have to spend buku bucks to make it believable. They just have to make it believable.
Yeah.
And Farscape's a great example because you had a male character, but he also there was strong female characters, 2 different types.
Yep.
They had 2 different strong female characters. One, Kiara, who wasn't militant. I mean, she was kind of more like a thief and whatever, those kind of skills.
Right.
And then you had the other one that was militant because she was a soldier.
Right.
But I guess what I'm saying is, hey, they showed a little bit of true diversity in what they chose, and we didn't have any problem with that. Rigel was pretty much the weakest character, right? The one that farted helium, and because whenever he got nervous, and
Yeah.
so, you know, like there was a male character that was weak. There was a male character that was super strong. A male character that was in between. That was their main character.
Right.
So they managed to do it without without making any of the characters seem stupid or just about comedy relief. Even Rigel was the most comedy relief character, and he wasn't just purely comic relief. He had purposes that the other crew members didn't have the same skills. So why couldn't you still do that? That was great.
Yeah.
They should have made they should have made a movie, just like they did with Firefly and Serenity. They should have made a pretty good movie, and then I think it would have drawn more of an audience. I think the main problem is that sci-fi never had a huge audience to begin with.
Right.
And it's too bad because they put out some pretty good shows. Warehouse 13 was a fun show. The hell was that one? I can't remember. It's based on Stephen King stuff, actually.
I don't know.
It was filmed in Nova Scotia and in New England, I'm pretty sure. What the hell was it called now? Now I'm gonna have to look it up.
Now I've done it. It's all my fault.
It was based on a Stephen King mystery, actually. Haven. It was based on Stephen King's novella, The Colorado Kid.
I think I read that. Yes, I hate that book.
Well, it was a lot more like Warehouse 13 than I don't know what the book was, but it was like an FBI agent that ended up getting trapped in some weird sci-fi stuff happening in the town of Haven, and then the people that he knew from that town are.
Well, the book, The Colorado Kid. God, it was, and it's up front, honest with you. I just couldn't believe that it was what it was. It starts off saying, sometimes mysteries don't have an answer. People hate that, but that's what it is. And then you read the book, and there's no answer. I was like, "Are you okay?"
So.
God, this is tiny.
So he started it off warning you that it wasn't going to be a good ending.
Yeah. That's like the balls on this guy.
Well, he plays to his strength. That's funny shit. But yeah, so the show was good characters. I think like one of the main characters is somebody in the show's mother, like the FBI agent's mother or something like that. Yeah, I didn't read that. Like I said, I stopped reading a lot of Stephen King a long time ago.
Oh,
He
yeah.
stopped doing it for me. So
Some of his stuff works for me, some of it doesn't. And he's always had something of a political bent, at least a little bit here and there in his fiction, but maybe
well,
it's
so while that's true, it wasn't in your face. It was the character's beliefs. Like it wasn't,
I agree. It was always like, oh, well, someone was always disappointed since McGovern or something. And it was like, all right, whatever. But now it's like, these people who don't get their vaccines are all going to die and they're evil. And it's just like, okay.
I think the closest to being outright political from the outset was the Dead Zone. Because that's the quest he goes on, is that he can foresee that this guy is going to become president and destroy the world. So, but it wasn't posed as it was going to be Reagan or it was going to be Trump. So,
right. It was just somebody.
Right.
We were too young to recognize it any different, but I don't think that's true.
This is fictional and...
Yeah. Yeah, I have a feeling now if they were to do the Dead Zone, yeah, it would just be, his name would be Ronald Frump, and he would be a real estate tycoon from New Jersey. And, it's basically Donald Trump from Temu, and that's what it would be.
Yeah, right. Well, they did do a show.
I know. I remember watching the show.
Yeah, I like the show. It's too bad, really, because he probably alienated half of his audience or so anyway. And when you're already trying to be relevant again, because he obviously has been trying to be relevant, and you alienate half of your audience, you're gonna kind of defeat your own purpose.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's a little bit different. You have one side of the spectrum that says if you don't agree with us, you're an evil person. And then you have another side of the spectrum that says if you believe that, you're an idiot.
Well, I like to think that my side of the spectrum, or maybe it's somewhere in the sliding scale, is that if you don't agree with me, I'll listen. You may not convince me. You probably won't convince me, but I'm perfectly willing to listen.
Right. It's okay for you to be an idiot. It's just I don't have to be an idiot too.
Yeah.
And
I don't want to start off calling somebody an idiot. You know what I mean?
Well,
they have to prove me they're an idiot. You give them enough rope, they do it themselves.
I agree. But yeah, that's just one of those things. Like I was reading about, there's an article on the woman who wrote Harry Potter,
J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, and talking about how she's she stood up to the trans movement and all this stuff. And but she's still a raging liberal and all this stuff. So, yeah, but if you don't agree with everything on the far left, like they kick you out, and to a point where conservatives will root for J.K. Rowling, not because they agree with her on all of her politics, but because they recognize, yeah, don't you see you've been abused by these people? Because if you don't conform, then you're ostracized. So we sympathize and root for you because of that. And
Right.
I don't see that happening on the left. I mean, I don't. And maybe they do, but
I don't think so. No, I don't. I haven't seen any evidence of it. I haven't seen any evidence. I would love to see that though. That's the thing that most people on the left don't get, is that not everybody would be on the right if you quit pushing them there. And or they probably, most people are going to fall somewhere in the moderate zone, where I like two from column A and one from column B or something,
right. Oh. Just got notified I have a meeting tomorrow during my prep, which is nice to know the night before. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate that. That's not my complaint. My complaint is that I had a meeting today during my prep. I had to cover someone else's prep yesterday. I had a meeting the day before during my prep, and then the day before that, I had to cover somebody else. So
You
I
have to get
prep all week.
you get paid for that extra?
I get paid for covering somebody else. It's a pittance, and I don't really do it for the money. I do it because the school needs help. It's just it's beneath my hourly rate. Um, at least it's something. I mean, don't get me wrong. Uh, there were years I worked where you didn't get paid anything. It was just like, yeah, you have to cover this. That's all there was to it. So, again, I can say that I appreciate the money, I guess, but it's not something I'm worried about because it doesn't add up much. Uh, over time, don't get me wrong. Like if you did it every day for a year, whatever. But
Speaking of Firefly,
yeah,
now I can give up this life of crime.
yeah.
Guess I'm gonna mute for a second and go get a drink.
All right.
I'll be right back.
Better be. Otherwise, I'll start drawing on your paper. I'm going to reach through and put a smiley face on them.
Every possible noise that we could find.
Okay.
Yeah, now Eli's gonna be snoring. But on the other hand, less likely he's gonna be telling me in 45 minutes, it's time. Hey, I almost got a half a page done today.
I know.
I reiterate, almost.
Well, you still got 45 minutes.
Hearing all kinds of funky noises.
Well, yeah, was that your dog barking?
I don't think so.
Oh, I thought I heard a dog bark.
His bark is pretty. You don't really question. It's not a question of whether he is barking. If he's barking, he's got this little cough bark that he does when he knows he's not supposed to be barking, and that I guess that could possibly be it.
I will be interested to see how many students I have tomorrow.
As opposed to,
Well, at the high school, a lot of times the last day of a semester, you don't end up with a lot of students. They just stay home. Or if they don't have a final or something, or if they don't need to come in for their grade, they'll just stay home. But the middle school, a little different because, they're still kids. So there's a certain aspect of babysitting involved, even though they're, some of them are teenagers.
is she a former smoker?
No, but her parents were. And they weren't the kind that believed, I'll only smoke outside, or, even much of anything like that. They didn't care. Like, I remember my friends growing up, their mom smoked, but she would only smoke it outside. So she'd sit out on they had a carport, and a little niche kind of where their back door was, and she'd sit there. But it was cold because that way she's blocked by it from the wind from pretty much every direction, and that's where she'd smoke. And the only time you'd ever really know was when you left, because my house was behind basically it was a more direct route going out their back door, so that's what we tended to do. And so it wasn't like that for my wife. It was just smoking. She remembers being sent to the drugstore to buy cigarettes for her mom, like when she was like single digits.
Well, I remember that as well from on. We actually, when I was young, we could do it with a note. She'd send me down to the corner drugstore with a note, 50 cents.
Yeah.
That's how long ago it was. 50 cents in a note.
I see some of those prices on cigarettes, and I'm just like, dear God. And I guess I've never been a smoker, just whatever. But I just,
I wish I hadn't, but
I've never
I was
seen. Well,
too
that's
dumb.
not true. Oddly enough, I've seen the appeal when I was having an asthma attack. There was once I was at a factory and started having an asthma attack that just wouldn't let go. And I remember we had our break, and I went outside, and there was a guy smoking menthol, and that was like, that's all I wanted right then, which is stupid. But it was the weirdest craving I've ever had, and but otherwise, I don't understand the appeal of cigarette. Like, I went to an auto parts store the other day, and they were vaping inside, and it's in Indiana, so I'm assuming it's a legal vape, a legal vape, in case I enunciate that well. And I was really tempted to ask, what's the traction on that? Because I just like, if it's weed, it's one thing, I guess. I understand that's got a pretty good reaction compared to cigarettes. I don't know. I just don't get it. So.
Well, nicotine has a calming effect sometimes. That's what I used it for. It was a calming effect. When it's actually a hunger suppressant too. Like, I'm not talking up the virtues of smoking by any means. There's far worse complications that I'm living through because I smoked, and smoked pretty heavily for a long time. And that was a space killer too. Like, if there was nothing else to be done, and like, as a tattoo artist, we'd lay a lot of patterns, and then we'd have to wait for the patterns to dry. And
right.
It's not the same as nowadays. There's a whole different method than when I learned. But yeah, you'd go stand around, smoke a cigarette while you're waiting.
Your audio is all kinds of weird. If you're talking, I can't hear it. Oh, that's not good. You sound like a really bad version of Charlie Brown teacher. Well, I can hear this.
She costs a lot. I think it's not gonna.
Okay, the pencil I can hear just fine.
What's your music?
I can hear the music.
That's not the music. That's the music. So, Bob, let's check the settings.
Well, that was a little bit better.
Alright, so, how about now?
Well, it's better, but it's rough.
When I said better, I just unclicked reduce white background noise. How about this?
No, it's terrible.
How about this?
It sounds like you're talking through a 1940s radio full of static.
Let's see what I'm doing is volume. Let's see if I change the setting.
Every once in a while, like your voice will cut through, and it's like all normal, and then it goes right into like a really bad staticky filter.
How about that?
It's nope, still bad.
That's still bad?
Now that's not bad. That's good.
And that's weird. All it did was just point my head down.
Well, I don't know. It's like it still cuts in. I don't know what you're doing.
Can't do anything.
Try standing on one foot. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
See, but that sounded okay.
I don't get paid enough for that.
See, that was fine.
So, I'm just talking lower.
Well, that might be what you have to do. I don't know.
Well, I just turned the mic volume down as well, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, see, that was fun.
And I'm facing away from way away from the mic. All right. Well, I guess if I have to talk lower, then that'll be work. That's work. That will work. See, I got louder because of that. Frustrating. Because that was frustrating. Also, I'm pretty sure I'm coming down sick, so
That's always fun.
yeah, I think my daughter brought something home, and then my wife caught it and passed it on.
It's your turn now.
I don't think she's done with her turn.
It's
I
like
just think she was lonely, maybe.
one of the women my wife works with came in hacking and wheezing and coughing, sneezing and all this stuff, and she's like, "Oh, I always come in when I'm sick." Why? Just, So my wife was sick like 2 days last week. There was a girl today. She's, let's just say she's had a hard time figuring out she's probably supposed to do her work. Crazy concept. And so she's trying to bring her grade up. And I look, she's got like a 36%. And I look and I see she hasn't done any of the exercises I put in one of the categories. And these exercises aren't that long, and they're really not that hard. And I said, you should do these. Like it's 20% of your grade over a few assignments. Like you're going to see a bigger bump. Like, and she's like, well, I pass? And I'm like, well, no, not just from those three, but without those three, you won't pass. Like
That'll help.
she goes, I don't even know how to do these things. It's like, well, number one, I'll show you again. I have no problem with that. And number two, if you get an F on every single one of these, and just 50%, your grade will still go up by 10%. She's like, what? I'm like, if it's 20% for the category, and you are getting 0, And all of a sudden, you get half of that. That's 10%. It just they don't understand like some of the most basic math when it comes to their grades. Now, there's some stuff that's kind of complicated. Don't get me wrong, but overall, it's just like I'm not trying to tell you to waste your time. I'm trying to show you this is the path for you to get to what you want, and they can't believe that I'm trying to get them to pass.
Like a teacher trying to help.
I know. It was never about trying. They're always surprised when an assignment's easy. That's all I got to do? Yeah, that's all you have to do. It'll be okay, man. Like, they're freaked out. So,
Yeah, we can take a break right after the jumping jacks.
yeah. They, so we're doing sentence types, and to do sentence types, you kind of have to know some basics of grammar. And, like one of those things, you have to know the coordinating conjunctions. So they got an exercise where I just wanted them to find the coordinating conjunctions. And, they didn't pay attention, or a bunch of them don't, because it's grammar, and whatever. So now they're trying to get their grades up. They're coming around. Oh, how do I do this? And I was like, I put them right on the page with the right notes that has fanboys, so your coordinating conjunctions. And so you just find these words. Oh, that's all I have to do? I thought this was going to be hard. It's like, no, it doesn't need to be hard. Like, I don't understand why you think that school has to be hard, or that my job should be to make it as easy as I can. Like, it should be, you are learning, not you are doing.
Right. You're a dungeon master. You're not trying to make their lives harder. You're trying to make them learn. But no, there are those teachers, you know what I mean? Some of them just, I guess, they're out to feel superior. I don't know why I get into that profession under those auspices, but
Well, I guess to some degree I don't ever worry about feeling superior, because I just keep thinking, please, children, go do something more with your life than what I did with mine. Please, 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 please. Like, go out, make money, go out, have a fantastic life. Like, go do those things. Great. All for it. Please, I hope I make it easier on you in the long run. So I have no need to feel superior to a student when that's just, I'm pretty certain I already know more than my students when it comes to English. I'm not worried about that.
I hope so.
Like, I feel like I have something to prove as a writer to other writers, but not to 7th graders or before those high school kids. That's like one of my former students was published in a book that was published by Lady Gaga. And I think, so I think it did well just because it was connected to Lady Gaga. So I think she's sold more than I have. And I'm like, sweet. Awesome. Go be a writer. Please, go. Nothing would make, well, that's not true. But it would make me happy to know that one of my former students became a writer. And even if they don't want to say it's because of me, maybe if they say it's in spite of me, I don't care. I would still be thrilled. I would be like, oh, that's just freaking awesome. I don't need to feel superior to anything.
yeah, like I wasn't accusing you.
Well,
I was saying, like, there are teachers that are like that, and
I agree.
when you tell me that they're so amazed with the assignments being easy, it makes me wonder how many teachers they've gone through that their goal wasn't to make them learn the subject, you know?
I don't know. Yeah, some of them
It's just, it's
hard.
kind of hard, you know? Like, it's almost like the ones that, the students that are looking for answers because they don't get it, the teachers don't want to take the time to explain, some of them, not all of them, obviously. But then if they did their jobs, it wouldn't be hard for them to get it, right? Why would you want to make it harder for them to get it?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be making it harder. You should be making it easier. That's kind of the point. That's my opinion.
That's teaching, right? You're learning it, but not learning it so that you never know it. That's
Right.
That's kind of antithetical.
Right, and it's some things are difficult because they're difficult.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
a teacher can't necessarily do magic, and sometimes, you know, it's not that the teacher did a bad job. It wasn't the job you need, which is always frustrating. Because like I remember when I was taking Taekwondo, I remember I taught a soul is the thing you do to turn around. And it confused the hell out of me because I'm dumb when it comes to, I have no rhythm, I have no grace, I have none of that, none of it. And so, I mean, I was going to start failing tests if I couldn't figure this out. And I mean, I was trying, and you know, Master Howard, my instructor, at the time I think he was a 5th degree, and so he knows his stuff, and he teaches all kinds of. But for some reason, that wasn't clicking. This kid comes along and goes, "Oh, you just slide your foot over," and I was like just the way whatever he said, it just like, oh, and it's not like the kid was like a better teacher or anything like that. It's just.
I just need to be able to even get.
Yeah, I just stumbled across a way of saying it that clicked. Or sometimes they would, just different ways of explaining. Like, there's a thing called star block, and the guy's like, think of it like you're running your hands across a bull's horn, and it'll guide your hands right. And it was like, oh, okay, like just different things that people pick up, and what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for someone else, and we act like teachers should be able to make it work for everybody, and it's just like
Some personalities click and don't click as well.
I couldn't understand that part.
I said, and personalities click and don't click as well.
Right.
Like sometimes it's not that you can't teach and that they can't learn. It's that both of you don't get along, or they just don't want to learn from you, right? So
Yeah.
just a personality clash is. I guess I'm saying don't overlook the personality clash in the equation.
I thought it was fun. They had this thing with we had this meeting, this faculty meeting, and they wanted us to. They had kind of identified some students that they thought weren't necessarily forming any connections with staff, and so they wanted to try to just make an effort to talk to these kids more. And it was kind of funny because one of the students I talk to like every day, like the kid comes up to my desk all the time. Like he's just, you can tell he likes my class. It may not be his best class, but he likes it.
Well, it's comfortable for you.
So I was like, I'll take him. I like this kid. I like him a lot. Let's do it with him. They're like, oh, okay. Like, I think they thought I was going to resist because I'm okay looking like a curmudgeon. Because sometimes that means I don't get asked to do things I don't want to do. But I was like, no, doesn't bother me. I'll talk to the kid. I mean, there are certain kids I've looked at before, like, man, I've barely said 4 words to this kid all semester. Like, I need to talk to this kid more. I've done that before, and I don't like it. I try to talk to all of them if I can, at least a little. Some of the classes I have, middle school classes, most of them are smaller than the high school classes. And that's kind of cool. So, like, I have one class, which is 26 students, which at the high school would be about a medium-sized class. They don't consider it large until you start breaking 30. And the largest class I've ever had was in Las Vegas. I think I had 48 kids in a room, and really? Okay.
I love that you added in a room.
Well, the best part was I got dinged on an evaluation because I had 8 of them sitting at a table, and she was like, well, how are you making sure they're not cheating? And I'm like, I'm sorry, you only gave me so many desks. You want me to build some and put them in my room? Like, it's not my fault. Like, and the room was crazy, stupid wide, but narrow, so you couldn't fit deep rows. So you have these really wide ones, and it was so wide, and I had so many kids. When I was writing on the board, the people on the edges couldn't see it. And I was like, this is just stupid. Like, all of this is just administrative problems, in my opinion. And I mean, I did my best. The kids liked me and whatnot, but I was like, you're going to ding me for putting 8 people at a table when you didn't give me enough desks? But that was also the place that said, take off those signs from the wall and put them on your bulletin board. And then on the next evaluation it was, what are those signs doing on your bulletin board? Put them on your wall. It's like, you told me last time to, all right, sure, do whatever you want. But that's when I began to see that, because certain administrators would walk in, and if you had a napkin with a lesson plan scrawled on it, they were thrilled. Other administrators were like, excuse me, this lesson plan is not in the order I want it in, and you had better do it the way I want it done. Okay. Just tell me what you want. Oh, no, you should already know. Okay. So, some administrators just wanted to watch teachers fail.
That's the whole thing I was talking about with teachers. Some teachers are like that. But something I said just kind of clicked with that idea for me is that you said, and last time you said it, but probably some teachers have that mentality as well. So, in education, if you're learning, right? This is a question. So, I'm gonna back up. Can you hear?
Yes.
All right. So I backed up. I don't know why it's super hypersensitive. So anyway, in education, does it matter if what they do as long as they're actually learning the subject?
Oh, that's a complicated question.
Well, it is a complicated question, but I guess this is what I'm getting at, is that, so when you're saying that those people are like, how are you sure that they're not cheating? Well, why would you presume that they're cheating in the first place? I mean, yes, some kids do cheat, but why would you presume that
all of these kids are going to be cheating.
Oh, I know, especially when I'm the one that knows that they sat there because I thought I could trust them.
Well, and like so, it leads also to the the idea that being a good teacher is not making it hard for them to learn. So, and what we just saying about the Taekwondo is that it's not the teacher that taught you that move; it was another student because that other student saw how you were coming at it, right? In a way that maybe the teacher didn't, or that he could explain it to you better.
I have no idea. I mean, again,
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that happening
Oh, there shouldn't be anything wrong.
in a class full of students? So,
In fact, I will often, if I see a kid ask some another kid for help, I don't intervene. I'll wait and listen and make sure it's right. Because I'm like, oh yeah, if this kid can explain it, that means this kid knows it.
yeah, and that's what I'm thinking is that if it's your job to teach a kid, and maybe that kid's intimidated by you, maybe it's a personality clash, whatever. Maybe you're just not getting an angle that the kids can come at it from. Is it cheating for somebody else to say, try it this way, But there are teachers that would look at that as cheating, else somebody else is telling you what to do. I don't understand, like, what's technically, unless it's on a test, how is it cheating,
Right, I agree. Some people feel threatened by it, basically, and if they're never coming to you and always going to other students, that is a bad sign. Don't get me wrong, but
it also could be an indicator that you're not doing the job right.
well, yeah, I mean it's just one of those things where.
Even for just them,
But I mean, like I had a girl today. I saw her; she was asking somebody else for help, and all I said to her was, "Hey, if you need more help, or if you're not sure if she can, whatever, like just please feel free to come ask me." She's like, "Oh, actually, I would like some help." And she came up to my desk and I worked on it with her, and it was fine. And she got it, and whatever. But there are teachers who get threatened because they're not confident in their own abilities. I think newer teachers tend to be like this a lot because they're only 5 or so years older than like high school students, so they feel like they have to assert dominance in a way that I think older teachers don't feel. And not every new teacher. Some new teachers just slide in there amazing, like any other field. Sometimes you just, yes, that was your calling.
And still, some people have a talent, as opposed to other people who have to actually develop a skill.
Yeah, and I've always felt my students tend to do well, but I've never been satisfied with how I teach. And I think that's kind of surprised some administrators sometimes because I'll have my evaluation and I don't get defensive about things normally. I'm really more interested, and some of this comes back to being in a writing group and being used to having people say, "Hey, this is what you need to fix." If it's done with honest intentions, an evaluation should help you out. So I think some administrators have been surprised to find out how receptive I feel like I tend to be when we're doing evaluations. Where I'll ask questions about, do you think this would have worked better? Or do you think, because I'm just trying to, I don't mind saying that I would like to be better. I don't know why you would just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to autopilot this thing. That's never been fun to me. I've always thought, let's keep trying new ways of doing it.
As an artist, like, it's one of the things
really hard with tattooing after a while is that everyone just wants the plane. You know, they come out with a pattern, and everybody has that pattern. You've seen that pattern 50,000 times, and no matter what you say, you can't convince them to try to do something better. You know,
Yeah.
and that's pretty difficult because as an artist, you want to improve. You want to do something that you haven't done before. Like I know there's a lot of tattoo artists that get comfortable, and they become kind of one-trick ponies because of it, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's, it's just easier to do it this way. This is my style. Like, I don't want to just have one style. I want to learn and keep going and pick new stuff up the whole time that I'm working because it's kind of the point of being on an art journey, quote unquote, is the opportunity to learn stuff and experience stuff in a different way that you didn't think of before. I mean, it's like I always felt that college was basically a collection of information that people learn the hard way over time, and it got refined by sharing, right?
Yep.
And you can do it and learn it the hard way, but so they can tell and you can learn it quicker. Why don't you want that?
Well, some of it, I guess some people feel like they're gatekeepers versus.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Anyway, hey, it's that time. And
Actually, just finishing up the outlines for the fillers, and then I was just about to say that's it. So, because that's all I'm going to do tonight. I pretty much got most of it done. Like I didn't get the background or the corner of the tunnel done or whatever, but I'm happy. I got a lot drawn. I don't know if, I guess I'm going to have to pull in to focus on it so that you can see it. I don't know why. Let's see if I can do a parting shot with it. I won't be able to see, but I can maybe zoom in a little like this. Does that work?
oh, that zoomed in.
Of course it did.
Yeah.
That's today's work.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck is going on with this camera. Maybe it's like maybe the plug is a little bit loose actually. Nope, doesn't look like it. I don't know.
Well, now you sound better.
That's because I'm standing up away from the mic.
Oh.
That's maybe I can do it this way. Does that sound better?
It sounds better, but it doesn't sound good, man.
Does this still sound better here?
Well, it's better.
Well, I turned it on a different direction, so I don't know.
Well, I would.
This is better.
You can just go to the end a little bit and listen to it because it's.
Well, that's what I'm asking. This is better right here.
Well, it's better, but it's still
That's
very hard to.
because what I'm doing, like I stood up and you said that sounds better. I'm actually further away from the mic than what I was when you said it sounded better, and I turned the mic so that I would be the same place directionally as I was when you said it sounded better. So it's really weird.
Just try. Just humor me on this, but try talking quieter.
Well, okay, but this is as quiet as I can really talk, really.
Well, okay, see, that sounds okay.
And again, I'm looking this way, and the mic is right there. Well, right there. Literally. Right there.
Don't know, man.
I don't know either.
Anyway.
Yeah, so that's it for the night.
Thanks, Zagaj30, for commenting.
Yeah, right? Yeah, thanks, Zagbot.
Yeah, Zagbot. I am Zagbot.
Yeah, that's a character now. We have to write Zagbot in somewhere. Maybe it's an ad bot or something floating around in the background. I don't know. Anyway, yep, thanks for liking, subscribing, following. Like last time, there were more people than we knew of because I don't get the stats until after. So, anyone that followed all the way through, thank you for watching all the way through. Good night. God bless. Much love.
Peace.